My guy is a guy I have been very high on since his rookie season. And he's a guy who has not fully gotten the opportunity to be a starting running back, but or I should say, the past 2 seasons, he's slowly increased that role. And he's going to be sharing this year, but I don't think it's going to matter because this man is AJ Dillon of the Green
Ah,
Bay Packers.
how did I
That
not?
is my I almost said fantasy ride or die, but that is my knight in shining armor for the 2022 season, AJ Dillon. What's funny is, oh, you weren't there, but so we play in a 3-keeper league in Joseph's league, right? And
Yeah.
my
Oh my
number one
gosh. I can't believe I didn't
priority
think about that. I did
my
not think about
number
AJ
one
Dillon.
priority was to get AJ Dillon in that draft. So it's a 3-keeper league. So we start in the 4th round, basically. And obviously, all the rookies are available. I'm at number 7, and Brees Hall is there. So I take Brees Hall. But then on the turn, I got AJ Dillon. I announced, I was like, this is my fantasy ride or die this year. And AJ Dillon. And I also have him in your dynasty league. And I just, when the Packers drafted him, a lot of people were like, what? They don't need another running back. Like, they have Aaron Jones. They also had Jamal Williams at the time. Aaron Jones was this was 3 years ago, right? So Aaron Jones was still relatively young. And, it was a questionable pick. They drafted Jordan Love, a backup quarterback that they don't need, and a running back that they don't need. But now look at how much they're about to rely on AJ Dillon. To me, the running back position in fantasy is changing. It's no longer, and we know this, right? It's no longer the workhorse running back. They still
Mm-hmm.
exist. They're a rarity, Jonathan Taylor, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry. There's less than a handful of them, if that. So nowadays, you can have a Tony Pollard and a Zeke, and one of them could be your RB2 on one team. On another team, you could have Tony Pollard as your flex. Like, that exists, And to me, this is the best situation for 2 running backs being fantasy relevant, especially now that Adams is gone, because I think almost every game that Adams missed last year, Aaron Jones was the RB1. But so I think Aaron Jones is going to work heavily in the passing game, and that's going to leave a lot of room. If you watch the Green Bay games last year, a lot of times when they were up, they would just let AJ Dillon run out the clock
Mm-hmm.
and just beast on the defense. And he went from his rookie season, he had 46 carries, 242 yards, 2 touchdowns. But last year in 2021, he had 187 carries
Oh
for
wow. I would not. That's a
800
lot.
yards and 5 touchdowns with 34 catches for 300 yards, 9 yards per catch, 9.2, and 2 touchdowns. So I think he's going to get even more work. He got 800 yards as a backup running back.
Mm.
So
Mm.
now that Adams is gone and they're going to be using Jones in the passing game more, what do you think is going to happen with AJ Dillon? I think I think this is going to be the best season from like a sharing backfield ever. And AJ Dillon's going to be splitting that work. So that's my dude this year. I believe in him. I've been saying, like, for lack of a better way of explaining it, he's the next Derrick Henry. And I believe that.
Well, I should have known. I should
It's
have known.
almost too
I
easy.
Well, I just don't think, because it's not that I feel differently about him. It's that, you said it perfectly, Jacob. The NFL is moving away from the workhorse running back. Those are few and far between the types of guys that we see now. The days of Derrick Henry, the last king we have here, they're gone soon after he leaves us, and it's going to be a sad day. And who do we look for in their replacements now? We look for those PPR guys, because that's where the most of these leagues are shifting. PPR, half point PPR, where these guys hold a lot of value. AJ Dillon was someone who I didn't think was going to get that passing down work. And it's just, you can still be fantasy relevant. And I think that's the misconception that a lot of people have that are switching their mindsets to this, right? You can still have a mindset where you think, oh, if he's not catching the ball, he's not on my fantasy football team because I want PPR value. Derrick Henry last year and the year before that, obviously last year he was injured. I think he still finished in like the top 15 in PPR. And the last 2 years before that, Derrick Henry doesn't catch any passes. It was actually last year before he got hurt where we saw him getting a lot of passing work. And then he went down. The previous 2 years, he was in the top 4 conversation every year in PPR. So it just goes to show that, like, when the guys are getting the volume on the ground, they can still provide elite fantasy value. AJ Dillon is a guy that can do that. I'm so mad at myself for not thinking of that. Jacob, what a beautiful pick. I am very proud of you.